Hey, everybody, welcome back to a new episode of the Stark Flavor Stories. And we have a super awesome special guest. If you can't tell, for those of you who have tuned in before, by our color change, we only do that for the finest of guests. Hopefully, nobody who had the blue background sees this. But we are with or joined today by Amanda, who is the co founder and do I say president or executive director? It's president, right?
Is president.
President of
Mhm.
Compassion
Yeah.
Delivered. So how are you, Amanda?
I'm good. How are you, Mike? And
Uh,
thanks for my favorite color.
hey, it's what we do. It's what we do for our special people. So Amanda and I have actually known each other for a couple years, and I guess you could say I don't want to say co-workers, but we worked together for a few years. I had the honor of spending about 3 years on the board of Compassion Delivered and held various roles and responsibilities. And it's an organization that's near and dear to my heart. And I know, the part of these stories is telling the stories of how people kind of overcame the past year. And I know this story firsthand because I was right there with Amanda. And so, it's an important story to tell, and it's an awesome organization that I definitely want to make sure people know about. So Amanda, let's get started. First off, let's just start by telling people what is Compassion Delivered for those of them who may not know.
Sure. Thanks, Mike. So Compassion Delivered is a 501c3 nonprofit here in Stark County that is providing healthy meals to people who are coping with life-threatening or terminal illnesses. And those meals are for free. We do believe that men, women, and children shouldn't have to choose between the nutrition they need and uh, the prescriptions or the testing that they need for their illness. And so we want to just eliminate that stress and take the burden of food off their plate. No pun intended.
Yeah, that blew my mind the first time that we met. That when you explained that to me, how many people have to make that decision between hospital bills are expensive, even
Mhm.
with insurance coverage. When you're diagnosed with life-threatening illness, man, no one's
Yeah,
prepared for that,
right.
and you kind of told me there's so many people that have to choose between buying nutritional food and, paying their mortgage or paying their bills, which blew my mind. And I was pretty much hooked right then and signed on the board at that conversation. But you were also the one that introduced to me the importance of food is medicine or coping with
Mhm,
medicine. I forget.
mhm. Food is medicine. It
Yeah.
is. It's so important because what we put into our bodies is what I mean. Our bodies function off of what we put into it, and we shouldn't just wait until we're sick to do that. We should be doing that now. But it is such a critical piece, of what we do is because the food that we're giving to the people receiving it, that's helping in keeping their bodies fueled, so that they can go through chemo or go through treatments for dialysis and make sure that their body still has enough energy and is burning the right way.
Yeah. And it's such an important part of that fight is feeling your body going. We had a lot of people who um, had cancer that were on our program just because of how widespread it is and just how many people have it, and that importance level of when you're going through chemo and radiation, having that healthy food. And the best part for this organization is those meals are delivered free of charge to them when you're on the
Mhm.
program, so it doesn't cost you. It is one of those out of sight, peace of mind things that are there for you and your family, and just such an amazing organization. But you yourself, before we get into the story of 2020, we always want to show and highlight those people behind the brands. You weren't always in the nonprofit world, and you actually have a great story of how Compassion Delivered came up. So tell people a little bit about your background, who your husband is, and how
Yeah.
you guys landed on the idea of Compassion Delivered.
Sure. So I'm from Stark County. I'm born and raised in Hartville. I'm a Blue Streak, go Blue Streaks. And Daniel, my husband, is from Columbus, and he is actually a culinary trained chef. Has been in the industry for over 20 years. He works at various country clubs and other places here around Stark County over the last 6 years. So we got married in 2015, and he moved up here prior to that to just start our life. And so when you get married, of course you merge your finances together or you talk about how you're spending money. And so we recently, just had been married just a few months, and I had been making a donation to a nonprofit in Denver, Colorado. And the reason, because my cousin worked for them. So I send the donations off, and of course, my husband was in queer and is questioning like, what's this about? And I said, what do they do? That's what he asked. And I said, I don't know. I don't know what they do. I just send donations to this nonprofit because my cousin works for them. So obviously I'll write checks to anybody,
Anybody who
help
you
you out.
know, it's okay.
Anything you need, I got you taken care of. So of course Daniel said, well, can you please find out what they do so we know how our money is being spent? So I made a super awkward call to my cousin,
Fine,
and
fine. I'll do it for you.
yeah, I said, I guess this one time. No, I'm just kidding. And so I made my call to my cousin, and of course, after he gave me a hard time, he told me that they, for the last 25 years at the time, provide healthy meals to people in Denver, Colorado, and that really just resonated with us because, like I said, my husband being a chef,
Mhm.
food is a big play, is a big player of our life. So Daniel said, well, let's find a nonprofit that is specifically helping people that have life-threatening or terminal illnesses, and they're doing it through food, and we can get behind them and support them and volunteer.
Yeah.
So with my what was that?
You mean here locally?
Yes, here locally, here in Northeast Ohio. So I started, calling the food banks and other organizations that have been working in the food side of nonprofits, and really found that there wasn't a nonprofit that was specifically helping people with life-threatening or terminal illnesses strictly with food. So I was in corporate America. There wasn't really any indication on my radar that we'd be starting a nonprofit. And so, but we met with the hospitals, found out that in 2016 here in Stark County, between both hospitals, there'd be 2,200 people that could benefit from what we would do. So that number was big for me because that's a lot of people who are struggling. And so I couldn't not do it, if that makes sense. So we took a leap of faith, stepped out, and officially formed Compassion Delivered as a 501c3 organization in January of 2017. And we're now 4.5 years into it, getting ready to celebrate a pretty large milestone on Monday. You'll have to tune in for that. So
Might be
that
there.
what
It may be on my calendar. I might be there.
I think you are going to be
I think
there.
I'm
So
gonna be there.
yeah, but it really has just been, besides the food, everything that's been a part of the organization has just been an absolute blessing to be able to walk alongside somebody who is fighting for their life, who is struggling just to kind of take it day by day. And we get the opportunity to just let them know they're not alone in this fight.
So actually, spoiler alert, we record these early. So by the time this airs, this will not be a secret anymore. So why
That's
don't
true.
we
Maybe
just
I should just
tell
tell you
people
what it
what that
is.
milestone is? Because if they check your
Good
Facebook on
call.
Monday, they're going to be like, I don't know what's going on here. So
They were like,
we
they
got
were just
to
posting
secret out.
about food. What are you talking about?
Right.
So May 10th, we are going to be making our 10,000th meal since starting Compassion Delivered. And that means 10,000 meals that have been given for free, that have also been paid for by donors and grants and fundraisers and people just contributing to our organization over the last, 4.5 years. And that's a huge accomplishment because we started in our home kitchen, and it literally is the size of your probably computer screen that you're looking at right now. Our
Right.
kitchen was small, and we did that for the first year, and then we moved to another church, and then recently, last year, moved to another church. But just over the 4 years, 4.5 years, to be able to see that Daniel and the group of volunteers could produce that many meals is just, it's exciting because we really thought that this would be something that we would be celebrating in probably 8 to 10 years, not 4.5.
And this is not a knock on any organizations like food banks or whatnot, but because there's different needs and different levels, but these are fresh, healthy meals
Mhm.
prepared by an executive chef delivered to people terminally.
Right.
So that 10,000 meals just blows my mind that you've come that far in
Yeah.
the, and I came on within the first few months, so got to watch this organization grow to that firsthand, and I just couldn't be more proud of you because I know the hard work and the dedication that you guys have put in, and it's an amazing milestone. So
Yeah. Thank you. I wouldn't change it. When somebody asked me the other day, I was doing an interview and somebody said, um, if you could you imagine going back to anything else? And I said, absolutely not. This is
it
literally
was meant to
what
be.
I was called to do. And so This has been such a blessing, and I cannot wait to see what happens next.
Yeah, anybody that knows you personally knows you're right. I think where you're supposed to be. Um, so we had a great end of 2019 in this organization, and the whole part of this story is the stories of the past year. And we were kind of riding high as 2019 closed, and we had these amazing plans for 2020, and then that, like, I think it was the February board meeting. We were kind of like, hey, can't remember if it was the February or March. If we got the March one in or not, I can't
It
remember.
was in March. It was
The March
March. It
one,
was
we
the
were
week.
like, you know,
Yeah,
this
it
is
was the week
kind of
that they
weird.
were shutting everything down. We had
Yeah,
our board meeting Tuesday,
this is
and
getting
they
kind
shut it
of
down
weird.
Friday.
So walk the people through. Like, I was there with you firsthand, but walk people through what that was like for us. As we had all these huge plans for 2020, and then this stuff hit. Like, what that was like during that week, I guess.
Well, like you said, 2019 was like I felt it was the catalyst to get us to the next level of what we were going to do. And we had some grand plans, to start looking at maybe a more potential location and start capital campaigns and, just big things that would help grow the organization. And then I actually had shoulder surgery in January, and that sort of slowed things down a little bit. So the week that I actually got cleared to drive was to the first board meeting in March, and then we shut down. And so I remember just feeling very uncertain because all of us did. We didn't know what was coming. We didn't know, but the other part that was sort of eerily like it felt good to know that we were all feeling the same way. It wasn't somebody was like, "Oh, I feel that way, but you don't feel that way." We all just had this big question mark. And for us, because we already were working with people who have compromised immune systems, there wasn't a huge shift because we already do a lot of things to protect their immune systems and to provide safety and things that way when we deliver and make meals. So there wasn't a huge shift in that way. But what we were immediately recognized the problem is prior to last year, when we delivered our meals, we would sit with people and spend like 20 or 30 minutes asking them about how they were doing, how they're feeling, laugh and cry and all those kind of things with them. And really quickly we realized that's not going to happen. And most of the people we serve, we're the only people they see besides their medical team. And so for me, it immediately created this concern of isolation that was going to start happening with our meal recipients because we couldn't engage with them that way. So we had to kind of be creative. And thankfully, granted, it was March, but by May, we could start doing porch deliveries and be able to talk to them on their porch. So that was okay, but it wasn't what we wanted to do, and really, honestly, the next part that happened was, getting supplies and getting food and being able to know that we could continue to provide the things we need to provide. Of course, costs went up and donations sort of, leveled out. Grants were put on hold, fundraisers were put on hold, so all these things that we're planning on all of a sudden came to a screeching halt, and then we had to figure out how to work through it.
And explain to people how Compassion Delivered is funded, because then you're going to get the point of where we kind of ran into.
Yeah, so we are a debt-free organization right now. We don't have any debt. We are literally a donation-driven organization. So the money that comes in, the money goes out, and if we don't have it to be able to provide or purchase something that we need, it's not budgeted for that, then we don't get it. So we only work as much as we can with what's coming in. But here's the phenomenal part about the last 4 years, and then of course last year, not once did we have to slow down, and not once did we have to, you know, skimp on providing meals or anything that those people that were on our services needed, they received. And we didn't have to stop, which is such a blessing because we couldn't, like they're counting on us and we couldn't take that risk of stopping. So I just I just want to give a huge thank you again because if it wasn't for the people who continue to donate and get behind us and support us, I don't know where we'd be today, honestly. So yeah.
Not here.
Not here, not here. I might be here in my house, but not
Yeah.
doing compassion delivered. So
Well, and there is no Medicaid or Medicare billing, or we are strictly fundraising and donations that powers
right.
that organization. And the past few years, we've been very fortunate to create an idea that you and I had a small piece of the team in creating, that Be the Change Gala, that ended up
Mm,
being a wildly popular, successful thing for us.
mm,
But that all of a sudden, even in March, we're starting to have those thoughts of like, those 2 weeks to flatten the curve thing seems like it's stretching a little bit. And, what do we do? And so many nonprofits, I know you're very plugged in the nonprofit world and having conversations as well as I was, and no one knew what to do. There's all these nonprofits that all these plans that are just trying to figure it out. And no one had the like magic key to say, okay, this is what works. Everybody do it. And so
right.
I don't even remember the amount of meetings we had trying to figure out what to do
So
with
many.
Gala and pivot. And but tell people a little bit about kind of what we kind of did
Yeah,
and how that went throughout the year, with,
right.
and I mean, we had some other challenges just outside of that with the kitchen. And so tell people a little
Right.
bit about, we got through March and April and we were able to keep our meals going, but tell people a little bit about how the summer and fall went for us as well.
So I'll start with the kitchen part because that was in June. And I don't know if everybody remembers the crazy storm that rolled through and basically shut down power down in Canton. And the church that we were at down in Canton was affected by that. And so we lost power for like 3 days down there. But thankfully, because of the equipment that we've been able to purchase, we didn't lose any meals, but we were panicked because I thought we were going to have to bring home like 300 meals and try to figure. I think I called every board member and said, "How much freezer space do you have?" Yeah, and like, "How many meals can I shove in your freezer for like the next week or whatever?" But thankfully we didn't have to do that. But what ended up happening um out of that situation was that the church ended up having a gas leak. And so they shut the gas off and it wasn't going to come back on. And, you know, it's a great space to use, but we need to use it to cook. So
Right.
within a week, I mean, we were panicked because we had to find a new home. And so we just started asking people and reaching out. And we were connected with Evermore Community Church in Hartville. And they said, come visit. I think we visited on a Wednesday. And on Thursday, we were like, yep, this is going to work. And on Friday, we called the moving company and they came and picked everything up from the other church and literally moved into the new space. And on Monday, Daniel and the volunteers went to work making more meals. And so it was a whirlwind, trying to coordinate because we still had to deliver meals on Friday and we're trying to move, and so thankfully Jill and her amazing team, came through and were able to coordinate that. And it was a struggle because we weren't thinking we were going to be moving then. We had goals to move by the end of the year, but we didn't have goals to move moving in June. And so that was a roller coaster ride. But like you said, the gala is something. It's just such a special night. Like, I can't describe it. It's one of my most favorite things that we get to do. There's a lot of things I love to do, but the gala is just such an amazing night. And so of course I was heartbroken that we weren't going to be able to do it in person, but we were definitely not willing to give up doing something. I think that was the conversation we had on multiple levels. I said we have to do something. So we decided, and this was in August. No, 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 no. It was in July. It was in July. We decided that we were going to host a drive-through gala.
Yep.
Never been done before and never been attempted by any other organization. And so we started planning it, and thankfully, the chapel in North Canton had a really great parking lot that made sense. There was even some many holes or many hoops that we had to jump through with getting approval by the city to have a drive-through event. And then what did it look like? How could we still have fun? And we created packages for people to take home and you know have with their families. And so it really did turn out to be such a special night. And it also happened to be the coldest night of the year so far
I
when
was
we had it.
I was gonna say, I don't remember a lot what it looked like, but I remember what it felt like even all these
Yeah,
months later because it was a chilly night in
it
October,
was
man.
cold.
It was
It was. It was so cold, and plus, it was also when the time change really started to get darker earlier.
Yep.
We had assumed it was gonna be a little bit lighter than it was, but thankfully, we could rent some lights and stuff and make it safe, but we just had a great time, but I sure did miss that in-person part, that we have every year, so
My favorite story from the gala is I was with Jimmy Fye, welcoming people, and a lady pulls in. You're gonna laugh because you remember this story, and we're like, "Oh no, go that way," and she's like waving to us, and I walk up the car. I'm like, "Yeah." She's like, "So I'm just here to walk my dog, but it looks like you've got something crazy going on here." And we're like, "Oh yeah." And so she's like, "I don't have the sidewalks by where I live, so I come here." And so she's like, "Can I just go like off to the side?" And we're like, "Yeah, you're fine." And then she ended up becoming a volunteer,
she
was it
does. She
not? Which
does
is like
volunteer
one
with
of the
us.
funniest things ever that she was like, "What is going on here?" And we kind of went through and she's like, "Well, how do I learn more about this place?" And then like I think the next meeting you were like, "Is this that lady?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I think so." And you're like, "She's a volunteer now."
Like,
So
now
it's
she's signed up to
awesome, like
volunteer.
how that just came about, on top of
Mhm.
the money raised to keep us going,
Yeah,
finding a volunteer who was just coming to a random parking lot to walk her dog. So
right,
that was
right.
one of the best stories from that drive-through gala that came out
That's
of
so
it.
great.
Yeah.
That's
So
so great.
what's next for you guys? Like so you've made it through, right? And
Yeah.
at least to this point, I know a lot of people are still in that zone, but what's
Mhm.
next for Compassion Delivered? What does the rest of 2021 look like for you?
Sure. So I do want to point out that, we continue to get busier with more meal recipients, and helping more families, and so we're the busiest we've been, which is it's it's a good problem to have, not for the reason they're coming to us, but it's good to have more people to help. So because there was no real fundraising and grants raised last year, we decided that we would host our very first Swing for Change golf outing, which is going to be June 5th. And so it's been a lot of fun. We have a lot of teams signed up, and all of our sponsorships have been taken care of. And it's just going to be a really fun Saturday at the quarry. And it's something we've never done before, but we felt like we needed to do something because um, like I said, we needed to start making money somehow and being able to help more people. And then the other part of it is that we are, as of right now, we are planning for an in-person gala October 15th at the DoubleTree in downtown Canton. You better believe I'm double I'm double doing it because we just really are hoping that we can welcome people. The space is going to allow us to still, be able to social distance. We can have up to 300 people. We're going to try it for 250. Of course, we'll welcome anybody that wants to be there with us because it's just such a fun night. But we're really hoping that by October, we'll be able to be back together again.
Well, me too, because I picked out.
Yes, you do.
We talked about that. Amanda helped me pick out my gala shoes that night. I don't have the rest of it picked out, but I know what I'm wearing on my feet, and they have been
And
acquired.
I got to get you the socks. So don't, it's on
That's the
record now
gala
that I
content.
have
Yeah,
told you I would do that. So
exactly. Yeah. So, if people want to learn more about you or your organization, or they want to volunteer, or they want to donate, what's the best way for people to find Compassion Delivered?
best way is to check out our website, which is compassiondelivered.org. Best way to get connected, to volunteer, to donate, to learn more about what we're doing in our community. We are on Facebook and Instagram, Compassion Delivered. Also, a great way to stay connected and learn about what's coming up. And then, last but not least, if you want to call and refer somebody to us, if you know somebody who needs our services, just call us. Our number is 330-575-0996. And they can also apply on the website under Get Meals if you do know somebody that would qualify for our program.
Awesome. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day to
Sure.
join us. It was an amazing 3 years. I enjoyed
Yeah.
all of our time together. I'm no longer on the board. Obviously, I know. Obviously, you know that. But it's still an organization that um, is always going to be near and dear to my heart, and that I will always support and be a part of in some realm or another, you know, and
Well, I appreciate it. We're not letting you go, so you're not allowed to just
stuck for
not
I'm here for life, but
volunteer. So,
yeah, I will be at the golf outing volunteering,
yes.
so you
Mhm.
can find me there, anybody that shows up, and also we'll be at the gala, and, you know, I will always be a member of Compassion Delivered for Life. So, Amanda, thank you so much for joining us, and everybody else, thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next time on the next episode of, Stark Flavor Stories. Thanks.
Thanks for having me.